Now that we've got our application connecting to a database and we're using include and require to put some of that information into separate files, we're ready to start working on the navigation and trying to improve that. We've already got the subjects displaying here, and we'll improve the look of those in a minute. But we also are going to want to make it display the pages, and we don't have any page information in our database yet. So let's switch back to PHP MyAdmin. I'm in the Widget Corp database. I've already selected that. And then I'll choose Pages to get to the Pages table, and then Insert from up here. And it will let me now insert values into each of these fields. So here's the field names over here. Here are the places where I put the values. You can ignore the function in the middle. Now, we don't need to put in an ID value because it will auto-increment and give us whatever the next available ID is. Right now, it'll be 1. So we could either type a 1 there or just let it do its thing. And I think it's better to let it do it. But for subject ID, we are going to need to put in a subject ID. Now, I had already created a subject whose ID was 1 that was called About Widget Corp. And that's going to be my subject. And underneath that, I'm going to put a few pages. So I'm going to put the first one now. The subject ID will be 1, and it's going to be the history. The history of the company would go under About Widget Corp. And we'll make its position 1. We'll make it visible. And then for the content, we'll just say, this is the company history for now. That'll just be a placeholder till we come back. Then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here, and I'm going to click, it says Insert as New Row, and then go back to previous page. And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to click Go. And now if we hit Browse, we'll see the page that we just created right there. So let's insert another one. And this one, I'm going to let it auto-insert the ID. I'm going to also put this under the About Widget Corp category. So it's going to have the subject ID of 1. But the name of this page is going to be Our Mission. So that's where we'll put our company mission statement. Its position will be 2. The first one was 1. And we'll make it visible also. So that's a 1. Boolean true. True that is visible. 0 would be false, not visible. And we'll say our mission will be our, let's put in our corporate mission statement is ... And then once again, we'll scroll down to the bottom. And this time we'll do insert as new row and then insert another new row. So we'll just take us straight to another insert. It inserted the row, inserted row ID 2. We're ready to do another one. Let's go ahead and jump down to another area. My second ID that I had, subject ID, was products. So I'm going to make this go under products, and I'll just add a first product. And for our fictional company, we're going to say that their first product is the Widget 2000. That's easy enough. And then its position in this menu, and this is a new menu, so it's going to be position 1. It'll be the first thing in this menu. Now, we already had positions 1 and 2 under the other menu, but we're going to order each set of pages uniquely. And visible will be yes, and we'll say the Widget 2000 is a great product. And that's nice and easy. Scroll down to the bottom. I don't want to insert another new row. I'm going to say go back to previous page. Now, you could insert more rows if you want. Feel free to go ahead and put in lots of information. I'm going to keep moving. If I click Browse, I'll see the 3 rows that I've created. And we'll see that we now have a relationship between these two and the subject number 1, and a relationship between this one and subject number 2. And if I switch back over to subjects and I click on Browse, I can actually see what those were. So I've got number 1 is About Widget Corp and number 2 is products. Services doesn't have anything underneath it right now. So now that I have pages, I'm ready to add those pages below those subjects. Let's switch back to our PHP code. I'll open up content.php. Here we are. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove these comments for now. You can leave them in if they're helpful to you. And I'm going to go ahead and just improve the look of what we were doing. We don't actually want to show the position. So I'm going to go ahead and take that position away. We're just going to show the menu name. And I'm going to go ahead and put it inside an HTML unordered list. So UL, and we'll go ahead and give it a style, because there's one in our style sheets for it, which is just called subjects. And that'll accurately reflect what's in this list. And then at the end of the list, we're going to end that style, right, with /UL. And then, of course, here we'll need to add in LI tags. And we won't need a BR anymore. This can just end the LI tag. And that'll make us a nice unordered list using HTML. I'm going to go ahead and prove it one step further. I'm actually going to take these concatenations out and do an inline substitution. And we know how to do that, to substitute the variable into a double quoted string. So that's going to look a lot better. If we were to load it up, we know it would look better. But what we really want to do here is now get our pages to display underneath the subjects. We've got a loop that loops through the subjects. That works for us. Why don't we just use that same loop and apply it to our pages? So I'm just going to copy everything that we've got here. I'm just going to copy that. And right below where it outputs each of the subject names, I'm going to paste in that loop again. So now what it's going to do, with the code the way it is now, is after every subject, it's going to loop through and print every subject name again. But I can fix that by just simply saying pages. And now it's going to return each of the pages. It's going to return every page, not just the ones related to this subject. We'll fix that in a minute. But before we go on, let's also add in those UL tags that we need. And we'll give it a class equal to pages. There we go. Now, if you'll notice, pages is a different color here. With double quoted strings and side double quoted strings, I need to escape those using the backslash. And that tells it, no, I really mean for you to use this double quote as a value, not as an indicator of where the string ends. So I've now got that escaped. I could have also used single quotes around the outside or something, but I'm going to do it that way. And then, and actually we can move that down. I'm just going to cut that, put it right before our loop of the pages. And that way we'll remember that right after it, we're going to echo the end of that UL. So we're going to go through each of the subjects as an unordered list. After we do each of the list items in that list, we're going to then stop and do another query. We're going to take the result of that, and we're going to output each of the pages from the page database. Now, as we said, we want to find only the pages which apply to this subject. That's our relational database. So instead of finding all pages, we're going to use a condition where subject ID is equal to, and I'll use that in-place string substitution again, and we'll say row, open brackets, ID. We've got the row menu name being displayed, and then we're using the row ID right here in our query. You might notice that we've been really lax in how we're using our variables, and we're assigning the same variables from one loop to another loop, and that's a bad idea. So instead of using just the generic result that we were using earlier, let's go ahead and say that's going to be a subject set. And that way we'll know that this is the result of our subjects, and we'll need to change it in all three of these places. We're going to want to test if the subject set comes back empty, and we're going to want to pull rows from that subject set. In fact, we're not pulling rows anymore. We're actually pulling subjects. Actually, it's going to be a subject, a single one. So I'm going to also take that and replace row with it. So now we're looking for the subject menu name and the subject ID. Now, result here, once again, is very generic. Let's instead say that this is going to be the page set. So it's a set of pages that's being returned. We're going to test whether that exists and then pull rows out of that. But they're not rows anymore. It's going to be a page each time. So I'll change that to page. Now our variables are a little clearer as to what we're doing. And hopefully you understand what just happened. If not, back up and review it again to make sure. Let's go ahead and go over to our browser and try this and see what we get. We'll go ahead and quit out of PHP MyAdmin for now. We're done with that. And there we are. We now have our subjects, and we have the pages that apply to that subject, the related pages below it. So that we've built a loop inside a loop. We made our database connection at the top. We made two different queries. Remember I said we can do steps 3 and 4 as many times as we need, as long as we've got that database connection open. And then at the end, after we did all our output, we closed our database connection. In the next movie, let's look at how we can improve this code in the same way that we've been improving our structure all along, so that the code will be a lot clearer and easier to work with.